Welcome everyone, my name is WirthyPickle and this is your channel for all things Starfield. Before we get started with this video though, I wanted to thank you guys for being patient with me, as well as apologize for being a couple days late on putting out this video. I just had my first week at a new job, so life's been crazy and I appreciate you guys being patient with me. But it does also mean that I'm able to compile all the news from this week and put it into one simple video instead of putting out a couple different videos. So that's kind of nice. But in this video, we're going to talk about some news we got about Bethesda being at Gamescom. Starfield was actually just added to Xbox's Play Anywhere list, which is fantastic. We'll be getting into that. And then we also received, surprisingly, a lot of info from a developer spotlight. So let's just get into it. But as always, if you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with all things Starfield. But let's go ahead and get started with Gamescom. So Gamescom is scheduled for August 24th to the 27th, which is actually just 5 days before Starfield is available for us to play, which is just crazy to think about that we're that close to actually having our hands on Starfield. But with Gamescom, we did find out that Starfield will have an exclusive presentation, which I am very optimistic about. I'm sure it's going to be awesome because the game is just about to be out. But I do hope that this is going to be a short, uncut, unscripted trailer of the game. As much as I'd like to see another deep dive that we had before, I really want a good feeling of what the game is going to feel like for us. If we were to sit down and play the game for 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, what is the game going to look like? And I really hope they showcase that with an uncut, unscripted, just simple gameplay of what the game looks like for the average player. I'm optimistic for that. I really hope it is like that, but obviously we aren't going to know until it happens. Now, on the same topic with Starfield being at Gamescom, we did find out that Starfield is not on the list for available demos. Now, I have heard rumors that it's not guaranteed that it won't be there, but obviously there is no proof that it is going to be there for the people that go to Gamescom to be able to play the game. As always, some people are really mad at this. Some people are concerned about it. And then others, like me, I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I think it's easy to get caught up on the idea that the game must be in a bad state, or it's broken, or it's going to be a disaster because they aren't sending out early copies to content creators or allowing demos at Gamescom, which is a massive, massive platform for them to allow people to play the game, and they aren't allowing people to play it. So I understand people's concern with it, but we also have to understand that Bethesda is a business. And with there being so much hype around this game, whether or not they actually do these marketing campaigns, it sounds like they're doing fantastic. And this makes me think that their pre-orders have to be insane right now. Really, they haven't put out a whole lot. They put out those 3 animated trailers, which I think were great. But the fact that they aren't pushing this game a lot with the marketing right now tells you everything you need to know about how many pre-orders they're having, or how confident they are in the release of this game and how successful it's going to be. I will also say Bethesda is known for not doing these things. Bethesda has never been known to send out early copies to content creators. We know they've always had exclusive deals with companies like IGN, but they don't really prioritize content creators on YouTube and other platforms. And then typically they don't do demos as well. We saw that with Doom, and people were really concerned about that, and Doom turned out fantastic. So I really don't think it's anything to worry about because of the way Bethesda's always been. And I do want to add on that same topic before we move on from Gamescom. The game is massive, and we know this. We know this because we saw, a 40, 45 minute deep dive of the game, and I still feel like we saw nothing. I feel like I know so little about the game, and I'm over here watching every single frame of the original showcase as well as the recent deep dive, and I still feel like I know so little about this game. Compare that to other game trailers where you may get 5, max, maybe 10 minutes of a game, and you feel like you've seen 90% of the game. It's all kind of presented there. Yeah, you may not know the storyline of every game, but you have a really, really good idea of kind of all the little features that are going to be in the game. And I don't feel that way with Starfield. And we've seen this with a lot of leaks and rumors. People are reporting that the game is just massive. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the developer spotlight, but the game is going to be massive. And with that, it's going to be really hard to review a game that is this big. Everyone has very different experiences, and it's hard to get a feeling feeling for every little aspect of the game in such a short period of time. So if you take that into account, with Gamescom and them not having a demo there, it's very hard for a player to just kind of sit down and play the game for 10, 15 minutes and feel like they have a good feeling of what the game really is. You can't, or it seems like you can't really have that with this game. So again, I'm not super worried about them not having a demo at Gamescom. You can let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm sure a lot of you are going to disagree with me. So I am curious to hear what you guys say, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. All right, though, moving on to Xbox's Play Anywhere feature. If you haven't heard about this, I'll put a screenshot of their Play Anywhere page on Xbox's website, but there's two big features to this. The first one is that you can buy the game on one platform, say Xbox, for example, and you can play that digital game also on your PC, which I think is fantastic. So if you're looking at playing Starfield and maybe you're in the process of building a PC like I am, or you just don't have a PC yet and you may plan on it in about a year or two, whatever it may be, you can play the game on both consoles or both platforms, and you don't have to buy the game twice, which is just great. I'd say the bigger feature, though, is that your progress actually saves between the two different platforms. So take me, for example, I'm working on building a PC. It might be a month and a half or 2 months before it's done, which will be after Starfield comes out. So I can actually start my playthrough on my Xbox Series X, get as far through it as I want, and then whenever I'm done with my PC and I boot it up, I can actually just play Starfield on there and pick up right where I left off with that game save. And this will also be nice once mods and stuff start coming out. Once you want to make that transition from Xbox to PC, or if you have, like, say, a gaming laptop and you prefer to play on your Series X, but if you're out of town or something, you can play on your gaming laptop. And I just think that is a wonderful feature. And Starfield showed up on Xbox Play Anywhere's game list. So we know it's on there. And I think this is just a great feature. Really, I think it's going to make a lot of people happy, including me. All right, I just took a fantastic cookie break. So now that I have some sugar in my body, let's go ahead and finish out this news update with my favorite thing of the week, which is the new Spotlight article Bethesda gave us about Jamie Mallory, who's one of the developers for Starfield. If you don't remember who she is, she was the one in the showcase that talked about the animal spaceships and collecting and hoarding sandwiches on her spaceship. So I'm sure you all remember her now. Bethesda, or someone interviewed Jamie about a couple questions that people had for her. She had a lot of long responses to these questions. And as you can see, the article is rather long. So I went ahead and read the entire thing, highlighted and took some notes on kind of the more important items. So I'll kind of sum those up here. The things that I found were kind of more important, more notable. But if you want to read the entire article, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the description. So feel free to read it if you want to. Now, of course, with this being a developer and it being posted by Bethesda themselves, it is going to be a bit biased. Obviously, they don't want to put anything negative in it. So keep that in mind when we're talking about a few points. It's all going to be taken with a very positive perspective because it is a developer. Again, just kind of keep that in mind. So she was asked if she had a favorite project she worked on. She responded with one that stands out is Starfield. The level of team collaboration on that project was off the charts, especially when it came to the ship builder. We've had an amazing team with some developers who worked on the incredible snap maps in Doom 2016, and we've got this massive list of exciting features we're looking forward to discussing and potentially implementing in the future. But I can't spill the details here. This is really cool. I mean, obviously we know there's a lot of details with the shipbuilder that we haven't exactly seen that I imagine are going to be there when the game is launched. But it's very interesting that she says, you know, they might implement it in the future. I don't expect this would just be a blanket update. I'm sure this is going to be some type of expansion or DLC. And I wonder what she might mean by this. Is this going to be like additional items that you can purchase and install on your ship? Or is this like totally different aspects of the ship? We don't really know. I imagine with them being different modules and habs and all these different parts that they're going to have have expansion lists to just have a lot of different items that we can then install in the ship. But let me know what you guys think on that. I think it's really exciting that they'll be coming out with additional DLC for the ship builder specifically. Now, a little bit later in the article, she mentions a couple different items that are going to be in the game. The first is the terminal. She says the terminal added another layer of depth to the game, usually giving players more insight into the story and lore of the area they are currently in. And then the mission board also kept us all on our toes, ensuring players had exciting challenges to tackle while exploring the cosmos. So two different things with this. One, the terminal. It is very interesting that they put that in this game. We saw that in Fallout 4. I think that's great. If you want to dive a little bit deeper into the story of Starfield, you can open up those terminals. I assume there's going to be different logs or journals from various people that explored in the area, as well as being able to, I wonder if you'll be able to unlock doors and things like that, just like in Fallout 4, if that's going to be a similar feature. But we do know that terminals are in the game, which is great. The second thing she mentions, though, is the mission board, which I think is fantastic. I mean, we've seen this in other Bethesda games. It's actually what Bethesda is really known for. You know, you can follow just the main storyline, but you'll come across so many random quests and missions while you're out exploring that your mission board, your quest log, is just going to be filled with so many quests. I mean, I always talk about Starfield on this channel, but Starfield, Fallout 4, if you've played those games, you know those mission boards just get stocked full of quests and you can never catch up. I always have this goal of I'm going to get rid of all of my side quests before I move on to the main mission again. And it's just impossible. You can't do it. By the time you finish a side quest, you'll collect 2 or 3 more and they're all awesome. Like every once in a while you'll get a repetitive quest, but you know, I remember playing these Bethesda games where you're just constantly learning more about the game and these little side stories, and you're learning about the people that takes place in the universe of these games. And, you know, this is going to be even bigger on Starfield. So that mission board is going to be stock full of missions, and I'm really excited to see what type of encounters I can come across. Next in the article, we see, I'm going to skip the beginning of this, but she says, I must confess I like to keep my sandwiches or other stolen bounty close at hand on my ship. It adds a slight element of risk during those thrilling dogfights. This may be a line that's easy to skip over, but I think it's really important. The fact that she says keeping sandwiches on her ship adds a slight risk during dogfights. To me, this implies that if you're in a dogfight and you have kind of loose items in your ship, if you blow up or if you die, I wonder if you lose all of those items. We don't know. We have no idea what happens if our ship explodes. Now, with the Bethesda games, I imagine a lot of us are just going to reload a save, so you don't really have to worry about that. But it is interesting just to kind of think about what the consequences of dying in Starfield may be, especially if we're doing like a cargo run or we have a bunch of loot in our ship. You know, if we collect all of these sandwiches and blow up, do we lose all of those sandwiches? Or better yet, are those sandwiches now permanently going to be flying in space? That's a big question, because we know that in Bethesda games, if you leave a dead body somewhere or you drop a lamp on the ground or something, those items will stay there if you go back to that area later. So if our ship blows up and all of our sandwiches go flying, can we fly past that same spot and there'll just be 100 sandwiches floating in space? That would be pretty cool, but we don't really know. Next, in reference to talking about the platypus and different ships that she made, she says, but wait, there's more terrible ideas for ships, one of which is a colossal sandwich soaring through space, aptly named the Griller. There's not much to say about this except the fact that we're going to have a lot of customization with these ships, a lot of different things that we can build. Heck, we can build a colossal sandwich. All right, the last little part from the article that really stood out to me, and I can't really say it better than she did, so I'm going to read this whole thing, and it is pretty long, so bear with me here. So she was asked if she had a favorite aspect of the game that she's been working on, and she said most of the content we're currently working on is behind the scenes to the player, such as optimization, but let me tell you about my recent playtesting adventures. Lately, I've been diving deep into the quest lines of all the different factions, and I've been pleasantly surprised by the incredible variety in their storylines. It's like unlocking a treasure trove of captivating narratives that many folk may not even realize exist. While some may rush through the main Golden Path storyline, those explorers who venture off the beaten path and delve into the faction quest are in for a real treat. The amount of content packed into these faction storylines are truly astonishing. It's like embarking on a grand adventure within an adventure, where every choice you make and every interaction you have shapes the course of the tale, the character development, the plot twist, the moral dilemmas. I've been completely hooked. These quests offer a chance to delve deeper into the game's rich lore and uncover hidden gems that add layers of depth and excitement to the overall experience. So, my fellow gamers, I urge you to take a detour from the main storyline and explore the fascinating world of faction quests. Trust me, the rewards are well worth extra time and effort. Prepare to be enthralled by the intricate storytelling and immersive gameplay that awaits you. It's like unwrapping a surprise gift within the game itself, a gift that will leave you with unforgettable memories and renewed appreciation for the boundless creativity of the designers and game developer. Happy questing. All right, so there's a couple things I want to point out here. The first is when she mentions that factions and some of the storylines people may not even realize exist. And we know Bethesda games, there's always a number of different factions. We've learned about some of the major ones, but I imagine there's also a lot of smaller ones that are maybe a little bit more hidden or harder to enter into. And she's talking about how awesome the storylines are for these factions that we may, go the entire game without even knowing exist. Meaning they're probably not part of the major factions, but maybe a small group of people or a club or an organization or a secret faction. I imagine there's, a handful, maybe even a dozen of these factions that we could easily just brush by. And this is what excites me the most, is the little aspects of the game that you really have to seek out and find that aren't going to be presented right in front of your face, but they're kind of secret. You have to uncover them. And those are the ones that have the really, really cool stories. So I'm excited for those. Aside from the overall feeling of world building that she gives us in this last little section, I wanted to pinpoint one other thing, where every choice you make and every interaction you have shapes the course of the tale. Now, we've heard this a million times from a million different developers of, choice and consequence in games, and I really hope that Starfield does it right, where even on these minor storylines or these tiny little factions that we come across, I really hope that depending on the choices we make, will have different consequences. It would be really cool to see some of these smaller factions having multiple endings or multiple conclusions to the storylines. That would be fantastic. We also know with the mission board that you can have multiple quests at once. Maybe there's possibilities of, doubling up certain missions or doing a certain faction quest line at a different time through the main story. And maybe they have different storylines with it. There might be quest lines that cross over each other and they interact with each other, and maybe you can't do one quest before you do another, or the overarching storyline or the timeline of the game that certain quests show up during certain parts of that timeline. And again, some may overlap, some may interact with each other, and having the different consequences and the different plot twists within those is just really exciting to think about. And I hope they do it right. But that is all the new information that we got about Starfield this past week. Again, I am going to be covering Starfield as we get closer to its release, as well as covering Starfield once it is released. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I come out with new videos, and then like this video if you did enjoy it. But just a reminder, I did actually launch channel memberships. So if you do want to support the channel further, that's probably the best way to do it. I do have a Patreon as well if you prefer that. But I do have channel memberships, so be sure to check it out if you want to support the channel further. Again, I love you guys. We'll see you in the next video. Until next time, stay worthy.